guys, welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. The Creature is a new short film by Home Centre which addresses a common occurrence in the region that's often looked at as taboo. To tell us more about it, we're joined by clinical psychologist and managing director at Lighthouse Arabia, Dr. Saliha Afridi, along with Mr. Siddharth Sivaprakash, who is head of marketing at Home Centre. Welcome to the show both. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey Casey, thanks for having us. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Saliha.
First of all, Home Centre has dropped a video that a lot of people are talking about. It's getting a lot of attention. It's playing right beside us right now, by the way. Give us a little bit of an idea of how the story unfolds.
All right, so this is really a part of our social impact initiatives. We decided to pick Father's Day again, 2023. So the video's been out for a while, I have to admit. It was really about looking at Father's Day and looking at some of the untold stories across homes in the Middle East, and how, as a brand, we could sort of shine a bit of light on that, bring a level of awareness, level of progressiveness to how society views certain situations like this, which are otherwise considered taboo or have been in the past. So the film's really about a child who's going about his regular day, his regular time at home, but he seems to have this creature, this larger than life creature that really almost looks like he's invading his space, sort of violating his space, his time with his mom. At every turn, this creature's just there in his house, in his space, in his mind, and it's quite invasive, really. And that's really the narrative that we take the audience through, about how there's this unruly creature within this child's life that just won't let go of him. And there's rejection, there's anguish, there's anger. There are a lot of sort of really heavy mixed emotions coming through in the film as we sort of weave through the narrative. Slowly but steadily, you see that change to not resignation, but almost hope and giving this creature a chance, until in the end of the film you find out that that creature is really someone who's decided to step up for this child, and is trying to do right by this child, and that's really what the film is about. It's about those men who decided to step up for families who may not have started off being their own, and coming in as stepdads and playing that role that either a biological father is not present to play or could never play.
Yeah.
And that's what the story is really about.
And it's truly beautiful. I'd recommend everyone to take a watch. It's also very emotive, and it's, as you said, it's discussing the topic of remarriage, which can be considered taboo. Can you shed light on the perception of remarriage in the region and also the challenges around it?
I'm going to let the expert take that question.
I think remarriage is a tricky subject everywhere in the world, but particularly here in the Middle East, where these deeply rooted values of family cohesion, the family unit, divorce and remarriage can be seen quite as a taboo and quite stigmatized still. There's so many challenges that are a result of remarriage, whether it is blending families, financial issues, stress, emotional stress, adjustment issues, the grief of what life was, what life is now, this kind of invasive experiences that you can have of the other parent being in the house when you've actually been alone with your parent for a while. So, there's a lot of personal struggles as well as societal judgment that a person experiences, and that is particularly harsher for women that are remarrying than it is for men. But men also have their own set of struggles that that can be quite painful for people to experience.
Speaking of societal judgment, times are changing, and we hope that things can be looked at a little bit differently now. But do you think we are becoming more progressive? But do you think times are changing fast enough?
So, from everything that we've seen and the response to this film itself, I think, if that's anything to go by, I think there's definitely a more progressive view on such situations and really life moments. I mean, no judgment here. I think from a brand perspective, it was really for us to push a level of acceptance, which I think it deserves. That's really my view on it. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, for sure, there are shifting, and within the younger generations, as well as within urban communities, it is shifting quite a bit when it comes to how people perceive remarriage. However, we have a long way to go, especially where we are in areas or in communities, local cultures, because it's so wrapped in religious, cultural, local norms that it's hard to say, well, yes, we are progressing, just plainly. But we are moving in the right direction. And I think whenever we're thinking about shifting public opinion, we have to think about having positive representation, open dialogue, and education. And I think videos like this are really what this is about. It is about having an open dialogue. Shows like this is about having open dialogue about a topic that most people just don't want to talk about.
100%. When you hear people having a conversation, it may make your struggles at home less difficult. So to have the conversation is one thing, but for a brand to get behind it is a whole other ball game. So what actually inspired Home Centre to get involved in this topic?
And I think I'll take a page out of what Dr. Saliha just mentioned previously, which is we're a mass brand. We're across the region. We're across 7 nations. We have a massive footprint. We're over 25 years old in the region. So for us, it was almost to take a step to make conversations like this become mainstream. And I think representing topics and themes like this in as mainstream as possible really helps push that, societal narrative along, pushes a level of acceptance, I think shows the human and emotional side to it, which is a lot more endearing. I mean, keeping aside social norms and pressures and taboos and religious and cultural influences, I think at the crux of it, it's a human life stage. And I think really recognizing that for us was important. And we're hoping through all our initiatives, it spurs more conversations like this. That's really what the objective is.
Well, it's amazing because, yes, talking about it is important, but actually it would be great to use this platform to delve a little bit deeper into the issues that actually affect people going through remarriage, children in particular. So, Dr. Saliha, if you could shed light on that while we have this open floor, that would be amazing.
Sure. So blended families go through their own set of struggles. Of course, remarriage is hard for every individual, but individuals who have children or there is a child that is now going into a blended family, that can bring a whole host of issues that just need to be considered. Things like adjustment. Adjustment is a huge issue. Who is doing what, when, how, with how many times, the custody and shifting between families and going, and whenever you're in a traditional society such as those that are in the Middle East, we have extended families that play a big role. So how do you navigate that between, because it's not just the family unit, but it is multiple family units that we are talking about. So it's mostly related to parenting issues, and that just trickles down into putting that pressure onto the parents that are then holding that. And that can cause a lot of difficulty, a lot of argument, and so it really needs you to be quite strategic about how you enter into that space. It's not like go with the flow. You've got to be prepared as to having these conversations beforehand, thinking about how are you going to co-parent with your ex, how are you going to blend your child in and not force that step parent into that space. So it is, and I would recommend speaking to a professional about this because it requires a lot of thought and consideration, alongside with just your own issues, your own feelings, your own grief, your own pain that you might have to process. So those are just some of the things. And then ongoing issues like financial issues and custody issues, those can put a lot of pressure on a blended family.
So interesting, just in terms of resources for people watching, anyone who's going through a remarriage, whatever their background may be, who can they reach out to for help? Are there resources that they can get in touch with?
For sure, there are plenty of mental health clinics here in the UAE and then across the region as well. There are people, I mean, divorce is no longer something that people are not experienced with. Like every clinician will know how to deal with that. But when it comes to co-parenting, when it comes to remarriage, I would really find a professional that actually knows that space. So work with people that have experience in that, and there are many clinics that you can contact, including the Lighthouse Arabia. And then I would say there are support groups. So we have a support group at the Lighthouse Arabia. These are free of charge. And so I know that when it comes to remarriage, divorce, it can be quite expensive. And so sometimes people want to get that help, but they don't know where to go. And that divorce support group actually is a free support group where you have a experienced clinician helping you navigate that space. We have a single parent support group as well, so that it would be another place where you might want to have some of these conversations. And then, of course, there are legal professionals that can help you navigate this space, as well as online support groups that you can access.
It's amazing. So the resources are there for people, and also, as we've already mentioned, amazing that Home Centre is bringing this conversation to the floor. Do you think you'll continue to address topics such as remarriage?
Absolutely. That's the simplistic answer to that. So as a brand, in the last 5 years, we've actually gone after a few themes that we feel don't get spoken about nearly enough in the region, from including single moms and sort of tipping our hat to them on Father's Day in 2020, to talking about fostering and adoption and the legalities around that and the emotional stresses around that in the region, to now talking about how stepdads, the dynamic that evolves within the blended family, or remarriage situation where what the child's probably going through, or what even the man who's sort of come into this family and taken on this family, not as a savior, but just in terms of real emotions that get that come into play here. And I think these are the kind of topics that we will continue to go after and try to shed light on, try to bring a level of awareness, try to bring it to the surface, because at the crux of the brand, we're about enabling every home to tell its own unique story. A lot of these stories don't get told enough, so I think it writes itself into the sort of moral fabric of who we are.
So true. I love that, to finish on such an important note, that every home does tell its own unique story. It's really beautiful. For people who are watching, they're probably watching the full edit beside us, but they can't hear the music behind it. How can they go and watch the full edit right now?
So it's on our YouTube channel. So just search for Home Centre on YouTube. It's on our Instagram as well. I have to give a special mention about the music. It is an original composition by the person who directed the film as well. It's quite a strong metaphor that runs right through the film, but how a lighthouse and a boat and the relationship between that is really metaphorical about a father and a child, and how they sort of learn from each other, how they sort of guide each other through this void that they're both trying to sort of fill. So it's quite beautiful. You can find it across all our channels.
Amazing.
And the film's called The Creature, so should be easy to find.
Amazing. Both of you, thank you so much for your time and for bringing this conversation up to us today. Dr. Saliha, Mr. Siddharth, that is all we have time for on the show this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye from me.
Thank you very much, Casey.
Thank you.